Good evening and welcome to today's Tropics for July 29th, 2020. Please note I am not a meteorologist and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions about the storm I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center or your local officials. So today I'm looking at potential tropical cyclone 9. So it has tried to organize today and it's had a bit of some pressure falls down to 1,004 millibars. So it's trying to deepen, but given its fast speed and relative disorganization, it's continued to not be closed off. And so far, we're looking for some northwesterly winds, but we haven't really seen any good observations that suggest so. We do have a lot of other winds, such as south-southwesterly winds, and generally the winds you'd expect going around a sharp wave like this. But we aren't seeing those northwest winds or west winds that would show that there's a closed circulation, but it seems that we're starting to get a few observations that are saying so, and it means we might have a broad but slightly closed low, which isn't too much of a surprise given how low the pressure is. Eventually, a system has to close off a low, even if it's moving fast, just because of how low the pressure is compared to the environmental pressure. And we might be seeing this and but it's remained relatively disorganized because for most of today we had a large area of convection that wasn't really centralized in one area, uh, but instead it was kind of spread out in around or along the wave axis. This is a little different now. We've seen a lot of that decay, and now we have a more centralized blob of convection here. It's pretty much in the middle of the wave axis. I'll have to see if that tries to form or relocate a center. At the same time, we're also seeing this area to the northeast that's being enhanced a bit by the uh, upper trough ahead of the system, and that might lower pressures a little bit and pull the system a bit north, but we'll have to actually see where center forms. So far we don't have one, so it's a little bit early to be making calls about where this will be going. So right now we have radar coming from Puerto Rico, from San Juan. So that's a bit, it's right around here. You can see the little dot. That's where the site is, and you can see that area of convection I was just mentioning earlier. My drawing tool is broken, so unfortunately I can't highlight that. But you can see this area of convection right here. It's just at the edge, so it's hard to tell if there's any kind of surface circulation because the beam height more goes in the mid levels. But you can generally see that wave structure here, or with cyclonic turning. And once you get down here, you get the northerly winds, and that's not quite the northwesterly winds or westerly winds you want to see. So far, there isn't much evidence of an actual center circulation that's formed at this point. We were supposed to have recon earlier, but that mission has been canceled. Hopefully we will have some tomorrow morning. The next 24 to 36 hours look to be the most complicated in the forecast so far, especially with Hispaniola here. You have this mountainous island that is going to produce some pretty weird effects to PTC 9, which is going to continue to make the forecast uncertain. But it seems that there's general consensus that actually the wave axis or parts of the wave axis being dragged over these mountains means that the part of the axis to the north that is over water will become more dominant, as it is still over water and not over the mountains. And it seems that there's general model consensus that tomorrow morning we'll see a low trend close off as it nears the mountains, but there is disagreement after that, and there's certainly a few scenarios that you see. So first, let's look at the Euro model. So this one has been pretty weak up until now, and now it's strengthening into looks like a strong tropical storm. It's not quite a hurricane. These are 850 millibar winds. Unfortunately, it does not provide surface winds, but these are generally what you see maybe in gusts. However, it peaks out around here The temporal resolution is also quite low, but it generally peaks out here and then it starts weakening as it goes to the north. I'm assuming it's due to the unfavorable conditions because you can see it's not super well organized. There is that core of stronger winds, but to the south, and especially southwest, there isn't really much in the way of a core. So I assume it gets disrupted, similar to the weaker model solutions. But it is interesting to see this actually try to strengthen. GFS certainly has a weird solution. It basically starts out trying to develop it near Hispaniola, but it still struggles as it has with the previous runs. But instead of having it continue like this and weaken as it lurks near Florida, this is basically this weakest it gets. And then the shear starts turning a bit more divergent. You can see this bar pointing out this way and this one pointing out that way. So you do have divergence aloft, and it seems that it's not going to be straight shear anymore, but it looks like more you're going to have diverging air, and that allows some convection to fire even with the dry air trying to invade here. So it does that, and also it interacts with a more powerful trough. You can see this trough digging down in this region, and you have two ridges, one to the west in the Gulf, and one to its generally northeast near Bermuda. But however, the one to the northeast is stronger, so it gets to moved to the north and northwest by this ridge until it gets picked up by this trough, and that adds to the upper divergence. So it seems to have a friendly interaction with that trough coming in, and it does strengthen it into a stronger storm before it ends up trying to recurve but nearing land, especially the outer banks of North Carolina. Now, the high-end solution, which I'm not sure I even believe because it basically blows it up as much as it can, is the parallel GFS. It's continuing to be strong, and you're having something similar here where you have this trough approaching, but notice that it's stronger. It's similar to the Euro model earlier, as it strengthens it quickly, but it doesn't. But it has more of a core that's built up, and as a result, it doesn't seem that there is going to be, in the solution, as much dry air trying to get in. But you see, the steering is generally still northerly, similar to the GFS operational, and it gets steered by this trough coming in. Uh, and at the same time, you do have that divergent shear, and you can see how deep it is getting at this point, 983 millibars. And it continues to strengthen it as it similarly tries to recurve it as a strengthening what appears to be a hurricane. So we'll have to see which one is correct, but hopefully by the time it starts bypassing the Caribbean and starting to get into Bahamas, we'll have a slightly better idea of what's going on, but it does look like uncertainty will continue to last. Looking again at the ensemble models, this is another good way to see what some models are thinking. You can see that this sort of conforms to the Euro here, because you can see the are stronger storms that are getting into the Caribbean that are around 50 knots, but you see how passing Florida it weakens. But then again, you do have a few ensembles that try to strengthen it. You can see that there has been that shift to the east as the models have gotten a bit more bullish. National Hurricane Center hasn't quite moved that far east because they're waiting for some continuity, which is definitely a good practice at this point because it is a pretty fast shift in models that could shift back. So at this point, it looks like a good call. And then looking at the GFS ensemble, it's similar to the actual operational model. It keeps all of them keep it weaker in the Bahamas, but they all pretty much avoid Cuba here, so that it doesn't interact with too much terrain outside of Hispaniola. And you can see that a lot of the ensembles, except for this one lone one to the west, are enhancing it with that trough coming by, and they all pretty much show a stronger storm passing the outer banks of North Carolina and making a close swipe at the northeastern United States. I'll have to see this because the track can definitely change, but you can see how it's further east as a result of that stronger storm. However, this model has a poleward bias and also tends to not be, or the model solutions and ensembles tend to be too tightly clustered together. So we'll have to see how these biases perform. But still uncertain, but it certainly does look like stronger each storm you have, more north and east it goes, and vice versa. Here is the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and you can see that regardless of what the system actually does, we are still seeing those high winds and tropical storm force and heavy rain. So definitely keep your guard up for this system, even if it does look like it's going to be a weaker solution. Please, please don't let your guard down, because no matter what, even if it's still a broad wave, it's going to be carrying the strong wind with it. So if you're in Puerto Rico, and the northeast or northern Leeward Islands, you're probably experiencing this right now. And then Dominican Republic and Haiti, you're going to see this soon, and in the Bahamas, definitely keep an eye on this, especially and also Florida too, as well as some of the East Coast. Keep a wary eye on this system. Hopefully, it ends up weaker, but with all the uncertainty, it's kind of hard to tell what is going to end up actually happening. Otherwise, there isn't a whole lot going on in the tropics. There are still a couple of invests in the West Pacific, and recently Douglas has dissipated. Otherwise, not too much going on at the moment. If you have any questions, comments about my video, please let me know. Thanks for watching.